Randy Orton and Edge, was it the greatest wrestling match ever? Ryder said no, but she said it was a very, very, very good match. Did you know Bobby Lashley could move like that? She said she didn't know until yesterday. WWE Backlash was good, bad, and ugly. We're going to talk about everything here. We're going to review the show completely. And Ryder, who's your favorite in the household? Me. How could it not be? This is your Backlash review. This is my puppy. She's going to say hello. Hello. And now she's going to get put back down because she can't sit still. Now, I'm not one person that wants to go into a show with a negative mindset. I'm not a type of person that will go into the show and completely crap on it before it starts. But if there's one thing I can tell you, Backlash was a pay-per-view where I've never been less excited for a pay-per-view than I was for Backlash. Backlash was, going into it, I had no genuine interest. Majority of the show offered me nothing. And when I left, majority of the show still wasn't very good. But I was able to pick certain things and certain pieces away from it that had made it to be not a good show. It still wasn't a good show for me from a show standpoint. But when I look at it from the standpoint of certain things throughout the show, I kind of understood it a little bit. I'm going to go through the show, full review, full results, as I always do. I'm going to talk about it, talk about what went right, what went wrong. Randy Orton and Edge put on a very, very good main event. Very good main event. But it wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever, and we knew a mile away that it wasn't going to be before it even happened. Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre surprised me a lot with what they offered yesterday. Let's talk about Backlash. Let's talk about what went right, what went wrong. My honest opinion before I go over this too, I think the first hour and a half of the show didn't even need to happen. The Jeff Hardy-Sheamus match was good, but I kind of predicted that it was going to go the way it did, just because that's what I thought, and that's how I thought it was going to add to it and make more sense. The kickoff show resulted in Apollo Cruz retaining his United States Championship over Andrade Cien Almas. I did not watch this. And let me tell you, CBS Sports is where I'm getting some of my notes off of here. I gave it a B-. And in all honesty, it probably was a good match, and it had the potential to probably be one of the best, if not the best matches of the night. The problem was that it was on the kickoff show. And when you look at the match that opened up Backlash, that should have been on the kickoff show. Kevin Owens made his way to ringside to work commentary, while Angel Garza and Zelina Vega were out with Andrade. Cruz and Andrade have built up some solid chemistry, and I will admit that they have, in recent months, and played off their history with some interesting counters. Both hit some big moves for near falls, but Cruz eventually hit the press slam into a standing moonsault and a standing shooting star press. Garza climbed onto the ring apron, and Owens left the commentary table to hit Garza with a stunner. Cruz hit Andrade with a sit-down spinning powerbomb for the pinfall to successfully retain the title. Solid match, as in case many times with kickoff matches, 5 more minutes could have helped the match feel more complete. Apollo Crews retains the United States Championship. Now, we know how Vince McMahon feels about Apollo Crews. We don't know how long this U.S. title reign is going to go. It's probably going to result in Kevin Owens winning the United States Championship, which I have no problem with. Kevin Owens could use a title. But Apollo Crews should have this title for a little bit. I don't think he should be one of those guys where he gets it and drops it right away. I did think Apollo Crews was going to retain. And I do think that whether it be Extreme Rules or SummerSlam, Apollo Crews will drop the title. I don't think he's going to be a long United States champion. Not because he doesn't deserve it, but that's just honestly what I think. I don't think that Apollo Crews is going to hold this title for really that much longer, just based on what WWE does. Kicking off Backlash was a match that I just couldn't get interested in. There were 2 ways that this match needed to go, and it went way one of 2, which is okay. It was the Women's Tag Team Championship. It was Bayley and Sasha defending the Women's Tag Team titles against the Iconics, and also against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. 2 ways that this match could have gone. The first way could have resulted in the Iconics winning the championship, and the reason that they would have won the championship is because Bayley and Sasha, or whoever, would turn on each other and start spark-plugging their feud. They didn't do that, and that's okay. Bayley and Sasha ended up retaining the Women's Tag Team titles. That's also okay. Why is that okay? That's okay because I don't think they should have had them drop so soon. Again, the way that their feud is going to spark plug is going to, they're going to lose the tag team titles, and that's going to be one of the reasons that the feud gets spark plugged into where it is. Before the match, Kayla Braxton asked Banks and Bayley if their friendship would end if they lose the tag titles, already planting small seeds for the turn, which both women brushed off as a stupid question. Bayley then reiterated that in a solo promo as Banks made her way to the ring. The match had a really good opening stretch with a lot of pin attempts, counters, and breakups before all 6 women entered the ring, and things broke down into a brawl. With 3 women legal at all times, the pace stayed really high, and the Iconics really impressed in showing off in-ring improvements beyond what they've displayed since returning. Bliss hit Twisted Bliss on Peyton Royce, but Banks swooped into the ring and pinned Bliss for the 3 count to retain the titles, and a fun, well-paced opening match. Now, the match itself wasn't terrible. I just really couldn't get into it that much, and that's part of certain problems that I have, is that I can't get into a match, and the match itself really isn't that bad, but based on who's there, I just can't get into it. The right call was having Bayley and Sasha Banks retain the championship. I can tell you that right now. And they've already planted very small seeds for what will be the turn at some point. Yes, there was fast-paced action. I'll go back and probably watch it again later, just to get it from a different glimpse, because, you know, sometimes, I'm not one of those people to do it, but sometimes when you watch a match over twice, you see it in a different aspect. Bayley and Sasha retain the titles. The next step would be for them to start spark-plugging the feud. If this is a feud where the idea is to have Sasha Banks win the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam in Boston, that is where they are going to most likely go with that. They're going to have to start soon, because you want it to be a strong feud. You don't want it to be a feud where it gets built and it's just 3 weeks build. I would say at the absolute latest, they have to start that build by Extreme Rules. But is SummerSlam going to have a crowd? These are the questions that we don't have answers to. The next match I actually really enjoyed. I actually went into this match with a positive mindset, because I did think that both of these men are very good at what they do. And, you know, the segment on SmackDown with the urine test was very cringy. But Jeff Hardy and Sheamus have actually built a feud that some people call interesting, and I honestly kind of dig it. Sheamus came out fast, though. He threw Hardy to the mat and immediately grinding his forearm into Hardy's face, rubbing off Hardy's face paint in the process. Hardy made his comeback jumping off the stairs with a body block, and then stopped himself from using the stairs as a weapon and risking a disqualification. The hesitation allowed Sheamus to take over and dump Hardy over the turnbuckle and onto the ring post. The move took a lot of steam out of Hardy, and Sheamus began to dominate. Sheamus was dominating a vast majority of this match, especially early on. No matter the move, Hardy kept finding a way to kick out. He was very resilient in this match. Hardy bludgeoned, and with clothes tattered and face paint all but gone, made his comeback with classic moves, Whisper in the Wind. He was unable to score the pin before being knocked off the top rope into an awkward fall. Hardy continued to hang into the match after White Noise and eventually hit the Swanton Bomb. I thought there was a chance that Jeff Hardy may actually win this match, but that's not what happened. Sheamus got his foot onto the rope moments later. Sheamus hit a bro kick on the outside of the ring as Hardy took a risk and ran the barricade. Let's see here. He added another finisher in the ring. Another bro kick to get the win. Another solid match as the show has started well. This told a solid story of Hardy having the guts to fight back again and again before a high-risk move allowed Sheamus to power his way to the win. I like this match a lot. I thought that this was a good match. I love the multiple finishers at the end. I was big into the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus match, and I can tell you right now, just based on what I think, they're going to run the route of a gimmick match at Extreme Rules, which will see Jeff Hardy get the win. What happens on SmackDown this week? You know, how does this feud build and boil to an extreme boiling point, which they've done a pretty good job of building it so far. We're gonna have to see what happens there. I honestly think that I like this match. Go back and watch it. It was a fun match. You know, Sheamus dominated most of it, and that's what we expected. And they went about this the right way. What I didn't care about this match before it went off. And let me remind people something. I keep looking back because I have a puppy here. I put her in the kitchen for now. You know, she's very antsy, and I was just trying to do my review because I'm kind of babysitting her too. Raw Women's Championship. I didn't care about this match going in, and I didn't care about it after. This match was garbage, and I had no problem. Raw Women's Championship, Asuka defending her title against Nia Jax, who's been built to be a superstar on television, but it does not rub off that way to anybody that watches it. Asuka locked Jax in the octopus hold early in the match. I actually thought for a legitimate minute that WWE would have Nia Jax tap early. They may as well, because they could have saved some time and put a different match on the show. Apollo and Andrade. It was tossed and level with a clothesline. The Jax power game dominated the early portion of the match, and she tossed Asuka around with ease, culminating in an awkward-looking Jax jackhammer. Jax asked, "Where's Kyrie?" leading Asuka to fire back up and throw a series of strikes at the challenger before Jax caught one and used it as a powerbomb. There was a lot of sloppy moments throughout this match. That is called the Nia Jax match. Before an awkward ending where both women were counted out while brawling outside the ring, Asuka hit one final hip attack on Jax, diving off the ring apron before taking her title and walking to the back. Asuka's one of the best wrestlers on the roster, and this match didn't allow her to show it because Jax has not improved at the rate you would hope. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nia Jax should not be in any women's championship match. I'm just being honest with you. And I want to always remind people that I speak from a standpoint of truth. I never speak from the standpoint of hate. A lot of people hate wrestlers. They think they're terrible. I want to see Nia Jax improve. We all do. Well, I don't know if we all do. But it's not there. Her character is not believable. Her in-ring work is very sloppy. It's not there. And that's just, that's not me saying I know everything. That's just me from what I watch on my television set. It's not there. It is not there. It ended in a double countout. You didn't want to have Nia Jax eat the pinfall. I get it. Asuka could have put this title on against a paper bag and the match would have been more exciting. I'm sorry. Asuka retains, double countout. It is what it is. When you talk about it, it is what it is. You get to the next match. And at this point in the show, there's no amount of alcohol that could help me get through this. Universal Championship, Braun Strowman taking on The Miz and John Morrison. The Miz and John Morrison are funny, but they're capable of so much more than what they get put on television. And we all know this. Braun Strowman, I like his entrance. I can't get behind him. I'm sorry. They pulled the trigger 2 years late on Braun Strowman. And this is the sacrifice of it. Earlier in the show, Miz and Morrison were caught off guard by the news that if one of them pinned Strowman, only that man would be Universal Champion. That's a good point. And that's what I was thinking is sometimes they don't clarify in a handicap match, if the team that is not handicapped wins, who gets the title? There would be no co-champions. Otis interrupted the duo backstage and let them know he might try to cash in, God forbid. Miz and Morrison tried to keep the fast-paced, quick offense going, but Strowman shrugged off their strikes until the team were able to hit a series of big dives to finally put Strowman fully on the defense. After Strowman seemed fully down and out, Miz hit a skull-crushing finale, which was assisted by a Morrison kick. Miz broke up Morrison's pin attempt, however, which kind of showed them fighting between each other because Miz is like, well, at the same time, I want to be Universal Champion. Miz broke up his pin and allowed Strowman to roar back, hit a running power slam on Morrison for the win. There wasn't much drama in this, how once and then no co-champs rule was announced. I didn't care about the match going in. I didn't care about it after. It was quick. It was like that. It was nothing important. If you're one of those people that goes back and watches the show and there's a certain thing that you have to watch or you only have time to watch certain things, don't watch this match. Don't watch the Universal title match. Don't watch the Raw Women's Championship match. Now, we get to the home stretch of the show. There were 3 segments left on this show. The Drew McIntyre Bobby Lashley match, the Street Profits and Viking Raiders brawl, which was absolutely cringe, and then the main event. We're going to talk about the WWE title match. Drew McIntyre defends his WWE Championship against Bobby Lashley. Can I explain, before going into this match, this was one of the matches I was least excited for. They added a lot into this match, and I can honestly sit here and tell you that Bobby Lashley really impressed me. For whatever reason, Bobby Lashley impressed me, and these two worked well together. This was a good match. Before the match started, McIntyre walked toward MVP and Lashley locked in the champion in a full Nelson. Lashley fell backward with his legs locked around McIntyre's waist, torquing on the hold before finally letting go. McIntyre took a moment to recover before the match officially started, with Lashley tossing him around and going for quick pins. McIntyre tried to fire back, but continually had his offense cut off as he was still trying to recover. Lashley continued his attack outside of the ring, but when he tried to run for a splash against the barricade, McIntyre countered and started to pick up some momentum. Lashley cut off the champion with some big power moves and a flatliner, but only drew a 1 count. Lashley set up for another full Nelson, which they built Lashley doing this full Nelson in recent weeks, but McIntyre was able to keep him from locking his fingers. McIntyre countered a crossface into an attempt of a tombstone pile driver, but that was countered into an ankle lock. Similarly, McIntyre covered a spear into a rolling attempt at a Kimura as the big man continued to go hold for hold down the stretch. This was a good sequence. Lashley countered a Claymore, but by hitting a spear for a near fall, I honestly was sitting here worried that there was a good chance that Bobby Lashley was actually going to win this title. Lana made her way to ringside. Of course, she was going to get involved. Lashley accused the ref of cheating, distracting Lashley before a Glasgow kiss knocked Lashley into Lana, who then fell onto MVP. McIntyre then hit a Claymore to score the pin and end what had been a very good match between both powerhouses. After the match, MVP and Lashley looked at Lana with disgust and left her on the floor ringside. This was a very good match. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. I was sitting here thinking, I don't care. Go back and watch this match if you want. Because it wasn't, wasn't a 4 or 5 star match, but it was one of those matches where you didn't typically expect what you got out of him. We know what Drew McIntyre is capable of, but Bobby Lashley showed up to work last night, and that's a fact. Drew McIntyre retains. Not sure that he needs it, but I've said, I always think of who should take the title off of Drew. I'm one of those people where I think that, for me, taking the title off of Drew, I've said Randy Orton. Randy Orton's been on fire. He's been at a different level. And ladies and gentlemen, I have some bad news. My laptop just died as I was going over this. So that means 2 things. 1, I'm not going over the Street Profits segment because it was stupid. They literally had the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders brawl in the back. They had Akira Tozawa and all these people with Japanese bikes pull up. Or not all these people. And Akira Tozawa was doing some weird ritual thing. It was just... I'm not even going to waste my time explaining that. I'm going to charge this up for a couple minutes, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about the greatest wrestling match ever, with quotations. And of course, I couldn't get through the last damn match without this happening. The greatest wrestling match ever was not the greatest wrestling match ever. But there was a couple of things about this match that we do have to talk about. The first one was the enhanced camera angles, which was pretty cool, and the amplified audio. Now, the crowd noise was added into the match. And I'll say this. At first, I was like, wow, this is so obvious. The crowd noise that was piped in was extremely, extremely obvious. But after a while, you got used to it. And it did seem to add a little bit of substance to the match. The match was presented with enhanced camera angles, amplified audio, and some unique camera shots and attempts to replicate stadium crowd noise, which was slightly... I'm going to put this over here. Which was slightly... Excuse me. Distracting when you see the actual crowd in the performance center because you realize they weren't making those noises. There were other small touches, though, with recorded introductions from the late, and this was another thing. Oh my God, see how this screwed up everything? There was another thing, too. Randy Orton and Edge came out with Howard Finkel entrances, and that was absolutely awesome. Howard Finkel introduced them both, obviously, posthumously, and the referee, Charles Robinson, who's an old-school referee, came out with an old blue shirt and a bow tie referee gear. The match itself was fantastic. It had old-school, patient build that was perfectly straddled a slow build with nasty offense work from both men. Orton was busted open early in the contest, bleeding near his right eye. As the intensity built, there was a very solid mix of high-impact moves and rest holds at exactly the right moments. Unprettier angle slams, edge-o-matics, pedigrees, rock bottoms, the depths of moves which were broken out over the match really helped build the story of the lengths both men were going to go, the places they've been through throughout their careers. One of the things I really loved is that they added that type of substance. They talked about all these greats. They went for rock bottom, pedigrees, all of these guys that they've worked with throughout their career. They incorporated their finishers, and they incorporated things as like they were going through a complete trance. It was absolutely awesome. After breaking out big moves from throughout WWE history, Orton managed to hit Edge with a RKO, but Edge kicked out. Orton was slow to follow up Edge and unloaded with 2 spears to draw a near fall in return. Edge hit a springboard in the corner, but jumped right into another RKO for a 2 count. With his primary weapon failing to get the finish, Orton went to the well with a low blow and drilled Edge to the head with a punch to score to win. You can debate how much a match like this counts when talking about the best matches ever, but a pure entertainment standpoint, it delivered. This match was absolutely phenomenal. I really got to give WWE credit. The reason why we get so frustrated with WWE is because we know they're capable of doing these things, and they just don't do them. This was phenomenal. You have to go back and watch this match. I absolutely loved it, and I think that it helped in a sense of taking some of the sour taste out of our mouth from what was really not a good show. But from the standpoint of what we got, 2 things that are a huge factor that people might not realize. Randy Orton did the punt, and he hasn't done the punt in over a decade. It's a lethal finishing move. he did the punt, and that was insane. 2, there are rumors that Edge could be injured and out 4 to 6 months. So now, what could happen is the punt that they used, Edge will sell that as an injury while he's out 4 to 6 months. This is absolutely phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your Backlash Full Show review. What an amazing ending to this show that was really not that good to begin with. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, do everything you got to do. Stay safe.